Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to talk about the file structure of our Laravel project. We can see there are a lot of folders and files. So we'll understand which file is required for what purpose. So if you see on the screen, and here we see there are a lot of folders like app, bootstrap, config, public resources, and certain files like .env, composer.json, composer.lock. So let's talk about these few of the files. We'll not discuss all the files right now because it would be too early to talk about them, but all the necessary ones like which are required at the initial part of our course, we will discuss them first. So let's start with the composer.json. So if you look at the composer.json, it will be containing the information of your project, right? The name of the project, the type, then description, keywords, and it will also contain the information of the dependencies which are required in your project. You can see there is a require object and a require -dev. This whole file is in the JSON format, and the require is that this is the minimum requirement of this project. These are the minimum dependencies which would be required, and similarly require -dev is at the development time. And then they are giving some auto load settings, right? Certain scripts which need to be run, and some more information, right? We'll talk about this information later. We have a composer.json, but we are also having a composer.log file. Why we require a composer.log file even if I am having a composer.json? So for example, if you look at this Guzzle HTTP Guzzle package, which is saying that it is compatible for 7.2 version. So there would be certain more versions below 7.2, under 7.2. So up to 7.2, it is going to support it, right? So if there is a 7.2.3, 7.2.4, 7.2.5, so till the time we are getting the versions under 7.2, so it would be keep on updating, right? So now the current version which would be added to this project would be recorded inside the composer.log file. So in short, it is actually locking your version of the dependencies. Let's look at the composer.log file, and composer.log file is going to log the actual version. It will record the version which is currently being supported in your project, right? So whenever you are distributing your project in the team through the Git, so this composer.log file will also be committed. So whenever the other developer is going to set up this project, the composer will check what version of the dependency is being recorded, and it will be installed, right? It will be installed by composer, checking the composer.log file. Next, we look at the environment file, right? Environment file. What is the purpose of environment file? Environment file is keeping the configuration for a specific environment. For example, if I am developing this project on my system, it would be considered as a local environment. But when it is being deployed, when it is hosted on some server, it will be either let's say QA environment, or when it is launched publicly, right? A final version is deployed, hosted for public to access, then it will be considered as a production environment. So every environment will have its own configuration. For example, there would be a separate database, separate mail configurations, right? So all those things would be separate for different environment. So we are not going to commit the environment file. .env file is not committed to the Git. It will be updated only on the local system, and then when we have to host it on the server, we'll generate a separate .environment file and update the credentials. Apart from that, we have a package.json. This is basically used for the JS dependencies, right? A big difference. Composer.json is used for PHP dependencies, and package.json is configured for your JavaScript JS dependencies. Let's look at these folders: app, bootstrap. So if I expand the app folder, it contains further more folders like console, exceptions, HTTP models, providers. App contains the actual application code, right? All your logic will go inside this folder in the form of controllers, models, right? The view part will go inside the resources. If you expand the resources folder, you will see there is a views folder. Views means the content which you want to display to the client, the end user, that will go inside the views, but all the data handling and all the logic part will go into the app folder. Then we have a folder public. All the public files, whether they are CSS or JS files, they will all go inside the public folder, right? I'm not talking about the Laravel mix or something right now. In case if someone has a doubt or is posting a comment like will there be a Laravel mix to generate the CSS and JS file? Yes, we'll talk about it later. Here we are just discussing like what will come inside the public folder. How it will come, we will see it later, right? So public folder can contain your CSS and JS file, and then we have a lang folder which would be containing up all the static text, and then database folder will contain all the database related things. For example, if you want to create a table, Laravel supports migration, so we'll generate the migrations. If I want to put some dummy data, I'll create seeders. So all those things come inside the database folder. Config folder. So config folder is containing a lot of configuration files. So on the top you can see app.php, which is containing the information about the Laravel application itself. Then for authentication, broadcasting, database, so all these configuration files are going to take the information from environment, and that's why I said environment file is not committed to the Git. You are not going to share your environment file with someone else, right? Because the configuration given inside the environment file would be local for a specific environment. So next we have the routes, and in the upcoming video we are going to talk about the routes, what are routes and how we are going to create the routes. Routes are basically the endpoints which we will create to access our application. And then we have a storage folder. So storage folder is going to contain the cache files and the logs file, right? Then we have a test folder which are going to contain the unit test. Here you can see PHP unit test and the feature test. Then we have a vendor file. All the dependencies which are inside your composer.json, which are recorded inside the composer.json and composer.log file, you can find them inside the vendor folder, right? You can find them inside the vendor folder. So here you can see big list of the dependencies, and that's why we are using Composer to manage them. And every dependency is going to come with its own composer.json. For example, if I go to this Spatty package, so Spatty vendor has a lots of package added to the Laravel, and here I can see one ignition, Laravel ignition. So in this Laravel ignition, you will see it is having its own composer.json. So this composer.json will contain the dependencies required by this Laravel ignition, right? So now see how big like task Composer is doing. Composer is checking the composer.json at the top level of Laravel project, and then it is going to every dependency checking its composer.json, and then it is going into the hierarchical way, right? So it is going to add all the dependencies, right? All the required dependencies. So we don't have to think of like, okay, I need to install Spatty Laravel ignition package, so it requires 5 more packages, so I am going to install all those things. No, everything will be handled by Composer. That is one very good thing of Composer. Okay, so this was some basic idea about the project folders and the files that we are going to use. And next video we are going to talk about the routes. We are going to understand what are routes. We'll see some examples of it. We'll create certain routes. We'll see how to return the data to the user from the routes, right? Till then, thank you.